When I strayed away, even though I knew the word.
Yeah, I won't introduce him and then you. Okay. Oh, great.
And grace stay with me and brought me all the way. God's grace, God's grace, God's grace, God's grace, God's grace, God's grace. It's amazing grace. God's grace. I made it this far. I made it this far. I made it by the grace of God. Anybody wanna know God's grace? How I got here. God's grace. Anybody wanna know God's how I'm still standing? God's grace. I made it. I made it. Yes, I made it. By the grace of God. Some people said, they said I wouldn't make it. Some people said I wouldn't be here today, but look at me, look at me. I made it.
As I look back over my life, I can see how your love has guided me. Even though I've done wrong, you never left me alone, but you forgave me, and you kept on blessing. This I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. It is because of your mercy that we are not consumed. Because thy commandments fail, they are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Yeah, 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 yeah. As I look back over my life, I can see how your love has guided me. Even though I've done wrong, you never left me alone, but you forgave me, and you kept on blessing. This I recall to my word, therefore I have hope. It is because of your mercy that we are not consumed. Because thy commandments fail, they are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've been so faithful. Even though sometimes I didn't do what you wanted me to do. Lord, you've been so faithful. I can never repay you, Lord, for what you done for me. How you loose my shackles and you set me free. How you made a way out of no way. Turn my darkness into day. You fill my joy in the time of sorrow. Hope for my tomorrow. Peace in the time of storm. Strength when a weekend war. I can never repay you, Lord, for what you done for me. How you loose my shackles and you set me free. How you made a way out of no way. Turn my darkness into day. You been my joy in the time of sorrow. Hope for my tomorrow. Peace in the time of storm. Strength when a weekend war. And we pray you, Lord, for what you done for me. How you lose my shackles and you set me free. How you made a way out of no way. Turn my darkness into day. You been my joy in the time of sorrow. Hope for my tomorrow. Peace in the time of storm. Strength when I'm weak and worn. I can never repay you, Lord, for what you done for me. I lose my shackles sometimes I didn't do what you wanted me to do. Hey, Lord, you've been so faithful. I can never repay you for what you done for me. How you loose my shackles and you set me free. How you made a way out of the way. Turn my darkness into day. You bring my joy in the time of sorrow. Oh, for my tomorrow. Peace in the time of storm. Strength when I'm weak in war. I can never repay you for what you done for me. How you loose my shackles and you set me free. How you made a way out of the way. Turn my darkness into day. You bring my joy in the time.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette Westbrooks and Mr. Dumas.
And good evening, and welcome once again to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. I'll be joined later by President Gwenette Westbrooks of the NAACP Maconville branch here in Macon, Georgia. Hope you're having a great day today. Had some sad news to come across the airways today in the death of Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, one of the first African Americans appointed to that position. And we certainly mourn his loss. We send all our condolences out to his family. The NAACP local chapter here in Bibb just celebrated this past weekend our 49th annual Earl T. Shinholster award banquet, virtual award ceremony. And we had a number of people that we acknowledged in the community for their service and for their great work with the NAACP. We're fortunate today to have joining us our National Board of Directors out of Atlanta in the form of Minister Edward DuBose. He'll be joining us. I think he's already on the line. Are you there, Minister?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. We can hear you. Certainly happy to have you on the show today. And I know you're doing a great work with the NAACP, and I just want to share that work with our listening audience. A lot of things happening. We got an election coming up here shortly, and some local elections already in progress. And so certainly we want your input about what's happening there in the Atlanta area and also across the state. So glad to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and chime in and just let our listening audience know about you and the great work you're doing in the metro Atlanta area.
So first of all, I'm actually based out of Columbus, Georgia, but overseeing the state of Georgia at this time as one of its state administrators. I've served at every level. I've served as branch president for 7 years, served as state conference president for 9 years, and I'm in my 15th year as a member of the National Board of Directors. I was actually reelected in February. I served one of the roles I serve as, and I'm glad you acknowledged our brother, General Colin Powell. I am the national chair for the Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committee on the National Board.
Wow.
And so that was quite hard to take, knowing that we lost such a great role model, if you will, in our community.
Absolutely. And we know that he's made major contributions, even as it relates to running for president and, just being that figure that most of us was not used to seeing, after President Obama was elected. Of course, he was that figure, prior to that. And so we certainly will miss his presence, on the political stage because he contributed so much.
Absolutely. One of the things we're working, I've sent out an email across, we're changing some of these Confederate named military bases. Fort Benning is one, and we're hoping that going into 2022 during the Black History Month, that base can be realigned and named after General Colin Powell.
Wonderful. It's funny how things happen and how things occur, and we don't really know a lot of times what God is up to, but everything makes a full circle, and it's like the timing just kind of sits in place a lot of times when these type of things occur. But we certainly send our condolences to his family, who
Yes.
I know mourns his loss, as well as the rest of the country, because on both sides of the aisle, the Republican and the Democratic aisle, I believe he was a person that was favored by a lot of people.
Yes, he was a champion. If anyone was able to cross the political line, the political spectrum, it was Colin Powell. Colin Powell was a man of integrity.
Absolutely.
He's a Republican, but he understood that President Trump was not the one.
That's correct.
For the job, but he didn't mind coming out publicly to offer his endorsement and make sure that the country went in a positive direction.
Absolutely, because that's important. Sometimes whenever top leadership has a certain environment that they create, the rest of the country can go along with that. It's like, if it's negative, then it's going to be pretty much negative out in the public. And so to have such a positive figure in place to give the country a sense of comfort and well-being, in knowing that you've got that type of leadership,
absolutely
makes a difference. We just celebrated 49th annual Earl T. Shinholster celebration for awards of community service, and the Earl T. Shinholster Award itself, which went to our very own Maria Bryant. And we were very excited as far as how our virtual presentation came about. And I think we have to give kudos off to you in directing us in that direction. It was really stellar. It was a stellar type of production, and some people, when they saw it, they thought they were looking at the national, NAACP awards, and when you have those kind of comments, it lets you know that it really turned out the way we really wanted it to, and so we really thank you for the referral.
Yes, no problem. And while I'm at it, I want to lift up that great giant of a president y'all have down there, President Gwenette Westbrooks, not just the president of that branch, but my friend, my colleague, a woman who is not afraid to get on the battlefield and fight for justice. And even as we speak, as the state conference is aligning for its own election, she'll be one of the names on the ticket.
Well, she just stepped in, matter of fact. She's
awesome.
Just coming in. So she had those itching ears. She must have heard heard those accolades,
That's that woman, that giant of a woman out down there in Macon, Georgia, just knocking down walls. And
absolutely,
I remember in one of her fights, her husband was at that time had retired out, and she was finna fight the very organization that he worked for. I was like, oh my God, she won't stop fighting for nothing.
No giant's too big. No giant too big, right?
Yes. So I'm glad that she's the leader down in that area, and that she have people like you and others who are dedicated and loyal to the mission of the organization, when we have so many people fighting against one another.
There's so many things, I thought about. I think they're doing jury selection for the Aubrey case, that took place in Savannah. And when you look at cases like that are so close to us here in this, in Macon and Middle Georgia, as well as Columbus and Atlanta, lets you know the severity of the work that we do, and how important that is to get that message of equality and equal justice, across the state. And so it's just a great organization to be a part of. And I say shame on anyone that's not a part of the NAACP, because there's a great sense of reward when you see the kind of work that they involve themselves in for our people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're listening right now and you're not a member of the NAACP, I want to say shame on you, but maybe you don't know.
Right.
But now you know
Right.
that it's better to be in the fight than on the sidelines talking about the issues.
Yeah, just as Senator Lucas, he was our speaker for our Earl T. Shinhouse's award this past weekend, and he basically broke it down so nicely. He started out with the history of the NAACP, and then he was saying the things that we're going through now that we're dealing with. Everybody needs to be a member of the NAACP, and he's just he just brought it home. He just kept it
Absolutely.
real.
Absolutely.
And he was just a good speaker. It was a good message. So we wanted to bring you on, Mr. DeBose, because give you a little introduction. Mr. DeBose is 4 times elected president, for the Georgia State Conference.
That's correct.
And
Wow.
he's a national board member now.
5-time elected national board member.
Right.
Wow.
And so he was a Georgia State president when I've had the opportunity to be up under him as a leader. He's taught me so much. I think I have spoken of that and put that in writing somewhere, but I've learned so much from him when he was a Georgia State president leading the Georgia State Conference. And I just want to thank you for everything that you've done and that you're still doing for our branches. He fought with make some recommendations to the national on behalf of the branches in which they did listen to what he had to say. But he's there and he's fighting for, he's fighting for what's right and fighting for our branches, and we appreciate you for that.
It's not hard to fight with you. You either fight with you or you leave us behind. So I'm glad I jumped on the bandwagon and rode with you.
Yes, sir.
At least when you show up at the fight, you got to either watch it or get involved. So we appreciate it.
She's not afraid of nothing. I'm telling you. I learned that when she took on the organization that her husband worked for. And I was like, are you going to take this fight? She said, have a conversation with him, but I'm fighting.
He retired after that.
and she won, by the way. She won. She does not lose. Yes. And I guess what I'm so impressed with to the both of you is that she don't fight alone. She's a team player. And people can learn something about that kind of fighting, because if you go out there by yourself trying to take on a fight, you don't have anybody following you. You're just taking a walk. That's all you're doing. But every time I see Madam President take on an issue, she has already coordinated not only the NAACP, but the coalition of organizations.
Absolutely. And, for a long time, when you look at organizations like the NAACP, SCLC, other organizations, we should, come together more, because these battles are humongous that we're facing these days.
Right.
These are giants of sorts. And when you start talking about voting rights being attacked and those types of things, freedoms that we've enjoyed for such a long time,
right?
That everybody should be on board, because it doesn't just affect the NAACP. It affects every registered voter across the country.
Absolutely.
I know when Senator Lucas was speaking this past weekend, he, talked about, the challenges that the NAACP fought, taking on lawsuits and different things like that, which is so true. He went back to Thurgood Marshall way back then. So, it's going to take, us coming together. We got to come together, different organizations come together, but the NAACP has to always be in the lead.
Absolutely.
We have to take the lead. So I just, I'm welcome to working with any organization. And like you say, the fight that we have is not only affecting the NAACP, is affecting, everyone. So we just got to, band together. And because this Senate bill that was passed into law, this 202 bill that's passed into law. This is something that's going to affect
voting for
yeah,
generations to come.
and it affects, people of the minority is going to be affected by it. So we just gotta, like I said, we've already started a process. We've already started setting up places to make IDs for people, so they'll have them for people that's gonna elect to vote by absentee. We've already started working on that. We purchased portable printers so we can set up at different locations.
And the question I think people have to ask themselves, if your right to vote was not that important, why would people take all of those different measures to
Right.
minimize that right? Why would they not allow access to, for example, mail-in ballots? Why would you decrease rather than increase those opportunities? Why do you limit the number of voting sites that people can vote at, locations where you can drop your mail-in ballot off at? What is it? What's really going on with not just Georgia, but the country, right?
Right.
The question is, if you want to earn my vote, you don't have to steal it. Just talk to me about the issues that we face. But what we see happening, Madam President, is that people don't want to earn your right to vote. They want something that looks like before the 60s, where we had the Jim Crow era and even before. But we're not going back to them days, right? There's the old saying, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and I go home to my master and be free. You can try to take my right to vote, but we will fight every step of the way.
Right. And we have to, because that's, it's something that, it's a right now. Sometimes people take it for granted, but we have to continue to fight for our rights, and that's one of them, to protect the right to vote. And so I remember few years back, and I think that was the first time Macon had an advisory committee, and I was chosen to be on that committee when they was looking at closing, I think it was 19 polling places here in Macon, and a advisory committee was formed, and I was selected to be on that committee. But we were able to meet and talk about the issues, and we had people, we had hearings, and people expressed their concerns, and we were able to actually, I think just 7 polls closed versus 19 polling places. But even with that said, people would recommend, I think, a polling place to be put at a police precinct in an area that the community and the police precinct didn't get along. There was not a good communication gap there. So, that's something that we fought also. And so we were able to prevail on that. I think we walked the community about 2 weeks and got the necessary signatures to stop that polling place to be put at that police precinct. Nothing against the sheriff department, but the fact that when you got a community that does not have a good relationship with law enforcement, then people are going to be reluctant to come and vote at that particular voting location.
Right.
It's a form of intimidation.
Exactly. I was just going to
It's
say
a form of intimidation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because we have a lot of people who, vote for the first time, and they are already apprehensive about the process. They feel they're going to do something wrong. They're going to make some type of mistake with their voting ballot. And so when you have an intimidating situation like that, it really deters people from voting. And they pretty much by design, and you can actually see that. For instance, one of the changes, that the NAACP noted very early on is, as simple as giving a bottle of water, to a person who's waiting in a hot line, that right off the bat sends a signal to say, hey, it's something,
And you eliminate that, right? You eliminate, as you were saying that, if it wasn't so sad, it sound like something on, on a Steve Harvey joke or something, right? That you're going to actually take water, the opportunity to provide water to people. You want to steal the vote so bad You
Yeah.
won't even let them pass out a chair, a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Brother Dumas, you're right on point. And
That's
so
fine.
what you all are saying, people have to pay attention to this, right? I
Right.
mean, because it goes back to the question. And see, some people might say, oh, well, it's just water. Oh, well, it's just a few polling places. But the people who are planning against us, they understand numbers. They understand that elections now are so close that if I can knock off 2,000 or 3,000 or even 100, I can take this election. I can steal this election.
Right.
Exactly. And they're using every means possible to do that.
And what are your thoughts on the redistricting, Mr. DuBose?
That's another fight that we're fighting right now. If you look at the maps that are being drawn, the battles that are taking place, they're stretching our community out. Right, they are busting up people who usually vote similarly. They know that African Americans and Hispanics and Asian, Black and brown vote together. So what you see happening with the maps now is those communities are being stretched and divided so that they're diluting the vote so much that even if we all went out to vote, if we don't fight this carefully, we still don't win. And that speaks specifically in many cases to local elections, right? Grassroots elections. If we can take away your ability to elect city council members, school board members, if we could take away your right to vote for those areas, because all elections are won at the local level. Right. And they understand that.
Right.
And we found out just how important, local elected officials are during the time of COVID-19. Right. And some of the things that were passed down from the federal level, but by the time it made to a governor's office, he determined if, they were going to distribute that evenly or just stop it altogether. And so that's the importance of getting good local leaders, in place.
But I hope people are paying attention to the different thing that's going on as far as with the unemployment, with housing, all these things that are being done and that decisions are being made on a local level.
Correct.
Local level. I hope that people are paying attention to that, and I hope they're going to remember that when they get ready to go to the polls, because just about everything that affects you economically is basically done on a local level.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Because even though the federal issued,
the check,
the federal pandemic, then the governor said no.
Right.
We're gonna stop it, and even if you had a balance, you're not gonna, we're gonna stop it on July 26th. So I just hope people are paying attention to the different decisions that are being made that affect them adversely.
Absolutely. What they're doing right now will impact 6, 7 generations down the road. And that's what we have to pay attention to. Your children, my children, their children's children will feel the effects of what's being put in place now if we are not aggressive and on the battlefield doing everything we can to stop it. If someone out there listening right now might be saying, well, my vote don't matter anyway. Your vote does matter.
It does.
I might as well stay home because the elections always turn out the way they're going to turn out. No, your vote matters.
Right. And Georgia hadn't been won by a Democratic since Clinton was president. So that it tells you something. Not we're nonpartisan, but I'm just saying that is the way the states are made up, because actually Macon is predominantly would have more Black voters, but they normally don't win Georgia.
And funny you mentioned Bill Clinton, because we do want to send out prayers for him and his family. I understand he's been hospitalized, and so there's a lot going on with COVID, and how it's affecting all of us and all of our families, and so we want to keep those families in prayer as well. Make
sure we send out our condolences too, and get well to Senator Lucas. He's still recovering from he was released last week, so he's still recovering. So send our prayers out to him and one of our members, Gloria King. Her mom passed this past weekend, so we want to send out condolences and get well to Senator Lucas and to Gloria King.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we are in some troubled times, some perilous times, but you know, we still as an organization got to keep the gloves on. We can't take them off.
Nope.
And because right now we're going to have another major fight depending on how this trial turns out in Savannah. And, you know, that's going to be watched very closely by a lot of organizations. And you mentioned, you know, generations to come. If we don't prepare, and if the upcoming generations don't have the fight, you know, that President Westbrooks has, that you have, then, you know, what will happen? You know, what will happen in unjust situations, unjust court proceedings, and those types of things.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to be said about the eagerness to get involved while you still have people who know what the fight's all about, you know, and have been there and have seen what can happen if you don't, you know, if you don't get active. And so
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think I really, in looking at, you know, the different things that's going on, I really think that our young people are getting more involved in these types of fights. They're you know, they're basically understanding it. When you know, I think people, when this happened with George Floyd, I think it opened a lot of people's eyes, and especially our young people, because a lot of times they're the ones that's affected. They're the ones that get stopped by the police. They're the ones that, you know, that are targeted a racial profile. So, you know, I think that, you know, a lot of our young people will get involved.
I've never been more proud of our young people. I mean, they have been out in numbers. I remember when Ahmaud Arbery was first killed. I was down at one of the first rallies, and the young people were out in numbers, and the young people are still out in numbers for not just Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. You can the list just goes on of how they're just taking Tamir Rice, taking our young people out, and so they're not afraid. I think that's what I'm so encouraged by. They are not afraid to get out on the battlefield and to stand up like young people did during the days of Dr. Martin Luther King. It was the young people forget, that were out there in those sit-ins and being arrested in the hoses, cutting their skin apart. And they're back out there now. So I'm encouraged that young people who are listening right now, we applaud you.
One of our listeners has typed in about the death of Kendrick Johnson in Valdosta is not getting national attention. I'm not familiar.
Down in Valdosta, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think some new evidence came upon that case, if I'm not mistaken. And she's
now,
right.
My recollection to the person who asked the question is that, and I was a part of that fight, by the way, on the battlefield, that they are, I read something that said they're getting ready to give it another look. And I'm hoping that what I read and heard is accurate, because we have an opportunity with the new Justice Department to really aggressively pursue justice in this brother's case.
Right. Yeah,
and
I know. I remember
family.
reading something about that. Yeah, and hopefully it'll get the attention that it needs to get, because it's something when you really don't know, you know, you don't have any closure with a case like this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And President Westbrooks, you want to give our listening audience some of the ways they can contribute to our virtual banquet, even though it's over, they can still.
Yes, that's one thing about the virtual banquet. You can even, you know, you can go back and look at it, and then you can still make donations.
Absolutely.
So you can actually, if you want to make donations, you can go to, we have a PayPal account that you can send monies to. We have a Cash App, which is $ Macon Bibb NAACP, and it actually tells you who the person is that made the donations. And also you can send payments to Macon Bibb NAACP at Post Office Box 6452, Macon, Georgia 31208. So, you know, we're gonna live stream this video again, and we're actually gonna do it next week here live on the radio show. So hopefully we'll be able to get you that video so you can look at it. It was an awesome awesome awards and ceremony. And Mr. DeBose, I want to thank you for recommending the gentleman that did. He did an awesome job. He did an awesome job.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well,
Brother Dumas said it looked like a national event being put on down there. So proud of y'all.
You have been listening to the live broadcast.
We're out of time, but we certainly
thank you for coming on, Mr. DeBose. Anytime, feel free to come back on. If you got announcements or something that need to go out, you're welcome to
on 980
on this show.
WDO.
Until next time, have a great day.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the